the mic.
Get on the mic.
Just get on the mic. Get on the mic, Mike.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Get on the Mic. That's where you put me in front of a microphone with a few notes and I talk about some of the more interesting things that have happened throughout the week, or honestly whatever else I feel like talking about. Before I begin with the program, I want to talk to you about my partnership with the DNA Digital Network. Now, not only will you be able to find this podcast on YouTube, but thanks to DNA, you'll be able to find it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and other places podcasts are available. Now you can listen to this program on your favorite audio device. For more details, check out dnadigitalnetwork.com. Before I get into the program, I want to talk about the day I had. It's just been one of those days, you know what I'm talking about? Where you think it's going to be a good day, and just everything seems to go wrong. My day started technically last night. I'm taping this on Thursday night. Wednesday night, I tape my Annihilation review, and I begin to upload it. And I also was beginning to upload my next Geno's Bad Games. I'm playing Max Payne 3 on that. And everything's normal. Well, I go to work in the morning. Okay, still a normal day. I was running a little late, but you know, that happens, just having some issues. So I was just like, all right, gonna be a little late. My morning job doesn't take much to get ready for a show at the station I work at. So I get there, and normally whenever I've uploaded a video overnight, I can finish it up at work. I can, put the links at the end, and I can make it public. So you wonderful people that watch this channel can see them. Well, I do that, and everything seems fine. And I got a bunch of hits on Annihilation, but then I got a message from a viewer that said, your video keeps messing up. So I'm like, I'll look into it. And I come home, and everything seemed fine. Sometimes the computer will restart when I'm uploading stuff, but it was still on and everything was fine. Couldn't figure out what had happened. I figured, well, you know what? I was trying to upload two big things at once. I did a longer than normal review on Annihilation, and I was also uploading like a 40-some minute long Geno's Bad Games. I thought maybe things just kind of got screwy because it was trying to upload too much. So I'll just try uploading Annihilation right now, and then I'll do the other later. So I upload it again. And when I check it at work again after it's done, it takes a couple hours. I check it at work and things are still messed up. It's like freezing. It won't load. The little circle keeps spinning anytime you try to advance or go back. Something's wrong. So it's like, well, I'd love to go home and handle that, but I got to go to a meeting at my son's school, and I'm not going to get into too much information here, but let's just put it this way. My son, Andy, is special needs, and sometimes he has some behavioral issues. He's a very good kid, and I love my boy, but sometimes he's dealt with some behavioral issues. And we have to have these meetings to kind of, touch up on, different, we need to check things and how we're going to handle things and things like that. Well, when you're a single dad and let's just say the other side doesn't want to even discuss things, they want their way, it's extremely frustrating. And, I try to do my best to pick my battles, and let's just say by the end of that meeting, which began at 2 and was supposed to end at 3:30 but didn't end until closer to 4, I had to excuse myself to the bathroom and almost kick the toilet off the... I wanted to just start kicking this toilet, right? I was so angry I wanted to scream. I was just so frustrated, and I was going to kick this toilet out of the ground. I'm like, I'm going to rip this thing up. But I didn't. I kept my composure. That's like, I can't get mad. I'm here for my son. I can't get mad. So I deal with all that. And then I go home, and of course I got to deal with this video upload thing. And, you know, I try every little trick I can think of. I was like, what is going wrong? Is Premiere messing up? I think I figured out that either a file I was using in the review, like a picture file, was corrupt, or one of the video files from the memory card was messed up. I ended up re-recording the review. And then I tried doing it, uploading it again, and things were still messing up. So I think it's the memory card. I'm not sure. I went out and bought a new memory card later. I haven't got a chance to try it yet. But, you know, it was even whenever that stuff was in Premiere, it was having trouble opening Premiere. It still would. But I ended up exporting the review, bringing it back into Premiere, exporting it again, taking it back into Premiere and exporting it a third time. And at the moment, as I'm recording this near 11 o'clock at night, my Annihilation review is up on YouTube. So hopefully by the time I upload this, it'll still be there. If I don't have problems uploading this. That being said, if I had problems uploading this, you wouldn't be listening to me right now. So anyway, I set that to export, because then I had to go to the movie theater for the 7 o'clock preview show, because tomorrow morning I'll have to do my 2-minute, it's called the 2-minute warning on the radio station I do for 2 different radio stations under one network. Do a show called 2-minute warning. And it's basically usually the preview movie, or if there's something else to talk about, like a Netflix show or something. And, you know, I go see Red Sparrow, which, first of all, Scarlett Johansson's going to be pissed, because that was practically an R-rated version of Black Widow, how Black Widow came to be. But man, is that movie a letdown. It is so boring, and I'm going to do my review soon, but I'm just going to say it here. That movie is boring. So boring. You'll see every twist coming. It tries to be shocking, and it's not. It tries to be sexy, and it's not. It tries to be every little thing, and it's not. You know, as much as I love Joel Edgerton, him and Jennifer Lawrence have absolutely, positively no chemistry whatsoever together. And the movie kind of banks on that. I mean, as you all know, I'm not the biggest J-Law fan, but I give her credit when credit is due, but I'm not giving her credit for this one, because, I mean, from the piss poor Russian accent to, I mean, and it wasn't just her. There was a lot of people. The Russian accents were not very thick. It was almost like an American version of a Russian accent, you know what I'm saying? And there's just a lot to not like about that movie, and it was just so boring and predictable, and I predicted pretty much everything that was going to happen, especially the big twists. There's this whole mystery of who's the mole, and it's like, gee, I wonder who it's going to be, and I wonder who's going to be the fall guy. So pathetic. People were, some reviewers were comparing it to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. No. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is an amazing Cold War spy flick. This movie takes place now, and it's so boring. It doesn't even hold a candle to Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, or not many spy movies. I mean, there's just not a lot happens, and the stuff that does happen, there's a couple scenes here and there that had some effect, but really, by the time it gets to those, you don't care. But anyway, so after I got home for that, I checked my movie file, and it's up there. I watched it before. I watched it in the unlisted mode. Then I loaded it, made it live, and I watched it twice. And it's there for Annihilation. the review. So if you want to see it, hopefully it's there. So that was my day. And then I just, you know what, I decided, gee, should I go to bed or should I rant? Well, as you can tell, I decided to rant. So now that was my day. I'm hoping tomorrow goes a little better. I got to see Death Wish tomorrow. I'm curious about that movie. Not sure. I think it's either going to be entertaining or it's going to be crap. I don't think it's going to be anything special, but it could be either really entertaining or just crap. But we'll find out tomorrow. All right, so on to the show. Here's what we're going to talk about today. News came out about Terminator 6, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but hearing the news about it made me wonder, how many chances should a franchise get? Also, Sam Rockwell has talked about wanting to return to Marvel movies because he was Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2, I believe it was. So that made me think, what other villains from the MCU should return and or show up? And then the last big topic, we're going to be talking about the Dungeons & Dragons movie. Some news came out about it that, while I'm a little excited, I know they're probably not going to do it, but I'm going to talk about what I want from the Dungeons & Dragons movie anyway, because this is Get on the Mic, it's my show, and I'm going to talk about what I want. So, here we go. First up, Terminator 6 news. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton are set to return for Terminator 6. That's been knowledge for a while. It's supposed to forget the events of Terminator Genesis because Hamilton is returning. It has to be forgetting Terminator 3 because she was dead in that. And I think we've all kind of forgotten about Terminator Salvation, right? Whether it counts or not, I think they're pretty much getting rid of it. But that got me thinking, how many times are we going to go to the well? How many chances should a franchise get? I mean, the Terminator has technically had 3 reboots, counting this new movie they're making. Right? They did Terminator 1, 2, 3, and then they did Salvation, which, yeah, I know it's taking place before the 3 movies, but it technically was a reboot because they were starting a whole story about different robots and everything else, right? About Sam Worthington's character and how he saved John Connor and all that stuff. And John Connor had his heart and, you know, story they didn't finish. But then that didn't do very well. So they made Terminator Genesis, and I don't know if you want to count the Sarah Connor Chronicles, because if I'm not mistaken, that came in between Salvation and Genesis somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if it became before or after Salvation. I didn't watch it really, so there's that too. So then, yeah, they had Genesis, where they, you know, recast the characters and tried to change history of the movies we already saw. And then now there's this movie. Predator is going on its 3rd, counting the new one in the works. They had Predator 1 and 2. They had the Alien vs. Predator movies, which I don't know if you really count those, but still they had them. And then they did Predators, which I wish they would have continued the story for that one. The only thing they really did wrong with that one is not having Lawrence Fishburne's part, which, by the way, I like him in that movie, but it should have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? It just would have made more sense. Or even Danny Glover. One of the two. It would have tied it to the other movies. But now they're making another one of those. Spider-Man is on its 3rd reboot. And this kind of is a counter-argument, because thankfully now they're getting it right. I mean, it took, you know, you had Spider-Man 1 was good. Spider-Man 2 was probably the best of the first trilogy. 3rd one was stupid. Then you had Amazing Spider-Man, which had promise, but then they made Amazing Spider-Man 2, which thankfully set up for Spider-Man to come back to Marvel. So hooray for crappy movies. The same could be said for the Planet of the Apes. They had all those Planet of the Apes movies, and then the Tim Burton one, which, I mean, where I give credit where credit's due, the makeup jobs and everything were amazing in that movie. But then, you know, the movie happened. You know, but then they made these new Planet of the Apes movies, and I know not everyone likes them, but I love them. I mean, they have some of the best CG that is out there, some of the best mocap, especially, I mean, Andy Serkis made a name for himself with those movies, and if you haven't seen the last one especially, him and the movie itself is freaking amazing. Halloween is returning to its original storyline after 2 reboot movies, the Rob Zombie ones. And I know it'll ignore some of the movies in the original series. I don't know which ones. I don't follow Halloween that close. You know, I like the first 2 okay. I make fun of the third one. I remember watching it on TV and thinking, I was pretty young, and I'm just like, what is this? Where's Michael Myers, right? Instead, we get how many more days till Halloween, 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 how many more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. As for you, Brendan, that's my buddy at work. He hates it when I sing that. So yeah, they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis to the Halloween. And didn't she die in one of the movies? And they're kind of ignoring it and just bringing her back again. Fine. I mean, there's so many of them. Batman, Nightmare on Elm Street, Star Trek, Fantastic Four, Dredd. There's so many movies that have had multiple chances. There's some that got an extra chance and shouldn't have. There's some that got an extra chance, the movie was better, and they didn't get to continue anyway, like in the case of Dredd. Dredd was so good, it made the original Stallone movie look just even worse than it already did, yet we haven't got another one. There's so many of them. But when should a reboot be attempted? Right? How many tries should a franchise get before you give up on them? Well, it depends on the circumstances. I mean, think about it. When a movie's bad, I think that's a good chance to reboot something. We'll use Spider-Man again for an example. People hated Amazing Spider-Man 2, and if you like that movie, I can't even fathom why. You know, I know people love their Andrew Garfield, cool guy Spider-Man, but, I mean, him and Emma Stone didn't have a ton of chemistry. They tried to fit the death of Gwen Stacy into that. They fit Electro in, who was changing costumes while traveling between 2 different places. All of a sudden, he's got what looks like Abe Sapien suit from Hellboy with logos on it when he went from point A to point B. You had the Dane DeHaan Goblin. You wasted Norman Osborn. And you wasted Chris Cooper doing that. Granted, they were talking about how they'd probably bring him back later, but whatever. It was so bad that Sony said, we give up, and they waved the white flag and said, Marvel, please save us. We want to make money. Please save us. And Marvel did, and we got Spider-Man and Captain America Civil War, and the fact that we got probably the best Spider-Man ever in those like 30-some minutes, that, you know, it needed to happen, and it happened, and I'm happy it did. But then you got things like, you know, we'll use Terminator, for example, okay? How many chances do you need? First of all, I know they want to make more movies. I get that because they want to recapture the magic. You know, we can also use like Aliens because you can count the Prometheus and count, you know, Covenant and all that stuff into this discussion. You know, you got these movies. The first Terminator is still my favorite. Everyone loves T2, and I like T2. Don't get me wrong. I like T2. But Terminator 1 is still my favorite. I like Kyle Reese. You know, you can't help but fall in love with Sarah Connor in the first one. And I of course, I love her in the second one because she's just a badass. But I love those two movies, and the third one's not good, right? And then they tried Salvation, which I liked parts of that movie, but it was a mess. Then we get Genesis, and they just think they can, you know, they can strike gold again. And it's like, well, we're bringing back Arnold again. Well, you brought him back the last time, and you finally did what you should have done with him in the first place, because the only really good thing they did in Genesis was at the end, he finally got an upgrade. And it looked like he was going to be part T-1000, right? Or at least, you know, something like that. You know, he always was obsolete in the other movies. There's always fighting something stronger than him, which I get that, but he never got an upgrade. But other than that, other than time travel again, you know, I'm sick of the premise of that movie. Well, you know what? Are the Terminators that dumb? Why don't they just go back and, I don't know, take out Sarah Connor's mom? Right? I know they went after the kid, Sarah Connor, in Genesis. Well, go back further. That's all they can really do. And it's getting old. You know? Look at Aliens. What was scary in the original Alien and what was awesome in Aliens, you know, then they did 3 and then whatever that fourth one was called. The one where Ripley was a clone or whatever. And then they tried Prometheus. And then we got Covenant. Which Covenant, they tried to use the same tricks that were scary years ago. And now we're laughing at them. We got more laughs during the scene where whichever android it was that told the character, go ahead, look in the pod. And we know the face hugger's going to pop out of it. And he's like, go ahead, look. And the crowd starts snickering. And when that thing pops out, we all had a good laugh. But, you know, Ridley Scott thought it was scary still. It's not scary anymore. So how many chances should you get? I guess we'll never really know the answer to it. But honestly, the best way I think something should get another chance is if it's not working. If you've had, say, 2 good movies and then, you know, 2 bad movies, well, maybe it's time to let it go, like Terminator. Let's stop ruining the memory of Terminator by making more Terminator movies. But like I say in the case of Spider-Man, and hopefully in the future, the case for like Fantastic Four. I mean, Fantastic Four, there's been technically 4 movies. You had the one that didn't get released, that you can find on YouTube. You had the two movies with like Jessica Alba and, you know, with the Silver Surfer in the second one, and of course those weren't good. Then you had Fan4stick, which is, now that Disney owns Fox, hopefully will remedy that, because now, you know, Disney has the Fantastic Four and Marvel can do something with them finally. You know, but I'm tired of seeing franchises that I have good memories for, you know, end up losing a lot of good feelings about those franchises because Hollywood keeps releasing more and more crap trying to recapture the magic. Now, sometimes, you know, people love those Planet of the Apes movies, the originals. And of course they did do the Burton one, right? And of course it sucked. And when Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out, I had no faith that movie was going to be good. I thought it was going to be terrible. And it was great. And then the next one came out, and I thought it was just as good as the first one. I don't know if I really know if it was better. I'd say it's just as good. And then War for the Planet of the Apes came out. And I love that freaking movie. It's one of my favorite movies of 2017. So yeah, it really just depends on the circumstances, I guess. But I wish Hollywood would give more thought into which franchises they really want to try again on. The next story I want to talk about is what villain should return or be introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When asked if he'd like to return to the MCU as Justin Hammer, Sam Rockwell seemed excited about the possibility. He had this to say about it. "Of course, I have some great buddies in that franchise. Jeremy Renner is a good friend of mine, and I am pals with Chris Evans and Mark Ruffalo. Robert Downey Jr. is always fun. Would love to get me and Clark Gregg back in that franchise. That would be a lot of fun." And a fun fact, Sam Rockwell was on Jon Favreau's shortlist to play Iron Man before Robert Downey Jr. got the role. So hearing this news, and of course, you know, I would love to see Sam Rockwell. I love Sam Rockwell. I'd love to see him return as Justin Hammer. I don't know if I'd want to see him in one of the bigger movies, but say if they decide to do another Iron Man or something like that, see where you could fit him in one of those. Who would I like to see make a return? So first, of course, I'll take Justin Hammer. The next big one, of course, is the Red Skull. I know people thought he disintegrated by holding the Tesseract in Captain America First Avenger. A lot of people thought that he was going to show back up in the Winter Soldier movie. Everyone thought, and me included, thought that Robert Redford was going to pull off his face and it was going to be the Red Skull as a recast because, you know, we didn't know if he was going to be returning or not. And so, you know, it would have been a cool recast. I mean, it's hard to have Captain America without the Red Skull in some way, shape, or form. So I would love to see the Red Skull return. Next would be Ultron. I know Age of Ultron wasn't the best movie. You could tell that Joss Whedon was kind of sick of it by the time it came around. But Ultron is the type of character that, and you can kind of liken him to Brainiac, where he always has an out, even though the Vision supposedly destroyed the last Ultron robot at the end of that movie. He would have downloaded himself somewhere, right? So he would make a great addition, just a kind of a wild card threat that you don't see coming. Another one is the Mandarin. They had that, you know, of course they had the big, you know, switcheroo, and, you know, Ben Kingsley wasn't the real Mandarin, but I would love it if they still made him the real Mandarin, because the real Mandarin is still out there, apparently, according to that short film they did, and they got Ben Kingsley out of jail, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it would be funny if it turned out he was the real Mandarin. I'd love to see them do more with him. I want Norman Osborn. Now that they've got the deal with Sony, I want Norman Osborn, but I don't want to see the Goblin again. The Goblin is played out. They did the Goblin in the first Spider-Man movie. You had the new Goblin in the third Spider-Man movie. You had the stupid Dane DeHaan one. There's just all sorts of Goblin we've had, right? I want to see Norman Osborn in the Iron Patriot armor, which he's done in the comics. And of course, it's totally plausible because the Iron Patriot armor has been in the movies. Another one I want to see, and this will be, in a way, a crossover with the Netflix series, which means it probably won't happen. I want to see Kingpin. I want to see Vincent D'Onofrio's Wilson Fisk in Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man is still that street-level hero. He could still take on a big street-level villain. and Kingpin and Spider-Man are no strangers to each other. The last one I'd like to see return is the Abomination. We got to see him in the Incredible Hulk movie, and of course they kind of just sweep the Incredible Hulk movie under the rug. Other than having General Ross finally return, there hasn't been any real mention of anything from that movie. They teased the leader, Bruce Banner's relationship. They had a bunch of different things, and they had the Abomination. I want to see the Hulk fight him again. I just think it would be kind of fun having the Abomination as kind of a bigger villain's lackey. I'd like to see that, and then of course I want to see the Hulk just clean his clock, because the Hulk only gets stronger, right? And the Hulk's definitely gotten stronger since Thor Ragnarok. So it'd be kind of cool just to see him dominate the Abomination. So who are some that I'd want to see introduced now that they haven't introduced already, or now they have access to? I know they're talking about ending the Avengers, like the big get-together movies after the 4th Avengers movie. I would eventually, though, I'd like to see him do another big Marvel event, like one big movie after they've established things like the Fantastic Four and maybe some of the X-Men, depending on what they're doing. I want to see Galactus. I mean, think about the Galactus that we got. What Galactus did we get? And Fantastic Four, was it Rise of the Silver Surfer? I almost said Revenge. Rise of the Silver Surfer. We got what me and my friends jokingly call the fart cloud Galactus. Right? He was a cloud entity. Ooh, scary. No. I want the big planet-eating, man-shaped Galactus. And of course, you can't just have him in a Fantastic Four movie. He's gotta face everybody. I think they will eventually do that. I think they're gonna do solo movies for a while, plus team up movies, and just kind of break away from the continuity stuff for a while, and then they're gonna do Galactus and bring everybody together. Another one I want to see is a Super Skrull, and in essence, Skrulls. And I believe, I don't know about Super Skrull, but I believe the rumor is that the Captain Marvel movie is going to deal with the Skrulls. If I'm not mistaken, the Skrulls were in the Fox deal, maybe? I'm not sure, because I know they've dealt with other Marvel heroes, but I know Super Skrull was kind of a Fantastic Four villain, and I think he fell under that, but I'm not sure. I don't work for Fox and I don't work for Disney, so I don't know who had the rights to what. But I always liked the Skrulls because they could, shapeshift, and anyone could be one. I always enjoyed that. Another one I want to see is Red Hulk, or Rolk. That's General Ross with Hulk powers. And I know eventually, I know we're talking villains here, but eventually he does turn good, but at first he was a villain. The only problem I had with Red Hulk, though, is, and I know it would have gave him away, but when Hulk has facial hair, or when Bruce Banner has facial hair, the Hulk has the facial hair, right? Well, anytime that General Ross, who has a mustache, turned into Red Hulk, he lost a mustache. I never understood that. But anyway, I'd like to see Hulk and Red Hulk, and then Red Hulk eventually become a good guy. But if we're talking villains, the one villain that I want is Doctor Doom. Okay, I know we had Doctor Doom in the unreleased Fantastic Four movie. We had Doctor Doom in the 2 with like Jessica Alba in them, and we had whatever that thing was that they called Doctor Doom in Fan 4 Stick. And look, I love Toby Kebbell, but he couldn't save that. Even he couldn't save that whatever that was supposed to be. But man, Doctor Doom has always been one of my favorite villains because, man, that guy will mix it up with anyone. And I know his big rivalry is Reed Richards, and I'm fine with that. But I don't want to see them introduce him in Fantastic Four. I honestly don't want to see the Fantastic Four get their own movie for a while. I'd like to see them be introduced in, say, another Iron Man movie or an Ant-Man movie or something like that. Something that's not Fantastic Four. They don't need another movie for a while. Establish them kind of like you did, introduce them in something else like, they did Black Panther and Spider-Man. But man, I want to see Doctor Doom mix it up with, Black Panther. I mean, because you got Doctor Doom with his own kingdom, and of course, Black Panther's got Wakanda. I want to see him mix it up with Captain America. I want to see him mix it up with Spider-Man. I mean, Doctor Doom is just such a versatile villain. He's got strength, he's got tech, he's got magic. The man is just an amazing villain. And there's times you don't think he's going to be one step ahead. You think you're ahead of him, then he's 3 steps ahead of you. He's such a great villain. And now that Disney bought Fox, honestly, I think one of the greatest things they got from that deal, of course, the best thing I got for the deal was the uncut Star Wars, but probably coming this Christmas, I would imagine. But when it comes to characters, Doctor Doom is one of the greatest Marvel villains ever, and now they can use him. And me as a fan, I am so excited to hear that. So yeah, Doctor Doom is what I want to see the most. The last big story we're going to talk about is the Dungeons and Dragons movie that they're making. It's going to be coming out in 2021, so we got a ways. They have established, and this is a while ago, of course, I didn't hear about this until recently, it's going to be in the Forgotten Realms universe of Dungeons & Dragons. Okay, there's lots of different realms in Dungeons & Dragons. There's Ravenloft, and there's Dark Sun, and Dragonlance, which I really like. But I also really love Forgotten Realms. Here's the thing, though. I know they always want to make like a new story. Let's give them something they haven't seen. Well, you know what? I'm not interested in a new original story about Dungeons and Dragons anymore. You had enough chances to do that. And what did we get? We got Marlon Wayans. Granted, they killed him in that movie, so, A+ there, but A+ for effort. But we got that, some of the worst CG I've ever seen in a movie. Some of the worst acting I've ever seen in a movie. Then they did parts 2 and 3, which were both kind of made for TV/DVD movies. And the second one, I'll give the second one some credit. It was bad, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. And the third one is just garbage. They were like, well, we can't get them with Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So what do? Well, let's put in some boobs. It was like the Skinamax version of D&D. They've had enough chances to make like an original thing. So what do I want to see? If I can make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, what do I want? Well, we talked about this in Quick Hits last week, and I said I would expand on it. There are a lot of popular characters, especially in the Forgotten Realms universe. But what I want Hollywood to roll the dice on is a Drizzt Do'Urden series. For those that don't know who Drizzt Do'Urden is, he's probably, arguably, one of the most popular characters in Dungeons & Dragons books. He's a dark elf that has forsaken his people, and the dark elves, of course, in those books are like some of the worst, and he forsakes them and becomes one of the best good guys ever. Yeah, he's arguably one of the most popular characters in D&D lore. He's been in over 20 books, plus the subject of many short stories as well. And I haven't read them all. I stopped after maybe somewhere around half of them. And they just kept, and they're still releasing them. There's a new one coming out, and I think they said September. I need to catch up, because the books are amazing. I've read a few of them more than once. He's a complicated character. He's forced to be an outsider because he can't live in the world where he comes from. Okay? But he's always in constant danger where he lives because of where he comes from. People don't trust him, right? He's a dark elf. Why should we trust him? Granted, the people on the surface and where he lives eventually grow to respect and understand him and get to know him and everything, but I mean, he doesn't have a lot of friends a lot of the time. He also deals with something called the Hunter, which, being where he's from, he has almost an animalistic personality. It's this instinctive state with a very singular mindset. Think Wolverine's Berserker Rage. There's a part in some of the books where he thought he lost all his friends, and he thought he was alone, and he was, in the worst of situations, and he just went into this mode. And man, it's some cool stuff. Scary stuff. But look, these books are filled with magic, monsters, and action. These are some of the best, most well-written action scenes in some of the books I've read. Some of the sword fights and fights, like Drizzt fights a dragon and he fights a demon, and there's just so many different action scenes, and the books, the way they describe them, I mean, you feel it, man. It's just done really well. Also, the story is easy enough for anyone to understand, even after just reading the first book, called The Crystal Shard. They don't start at the beginning. I mean, you can read them in chronological order, but they start where he's already on the surface. And it's so easy to follow still. And as they go, you learn more and more about his history. There's fun and interesting supporting characters. There's Bruner the dwarf. There's Bruner's adopted daughter, Catti, and the barbarian Wolfgar, his magic hammer, Aegis Fang. They become a group of companions with Drizzt. And they're just some great characters. It's hard to really explain, why I like these characters so much, because they all have their own complications. They're all their own hopes and dreams. Also, though, some of the best parts of these books is the ongoing rivalries that Drizzt has with different people. There's the Demon Heir 2, which is, whenever a humanoid type character embarrasses a demon, well, the demon's going to want to get even. And the best rivalry that Drizzt has is against a human assassin, Artemis Entreri. They have some legendary battles. I mean, they fight multiple times, and every time they are in the same room, you just know that crap's going to go down, and it's going to be an amazing battle. And there's always a different twist or something to the battle, or one of the characters has picked up a new item which makes them a little better here or there. There's just so many different things that makes their rivalry different every time they don't interact a ton, but every time they get together, it's always different, and that's fantastic. And that would be something great that could carry over through multiple movies. In a movie about Drizzt, I'd want Drizzt to narrate the movie. That way he could kind of fill in the blanks, and you could learn as you go along, because he's kind of telling you what's going on. I don't know who I'd cast as Drizzt, but you'd have to have someone that can do action, and you'd have to have someone that has a good narration voice. But Drizzt is the perfect action hero with a history that is still being written, has great drama and stories to follow, and an interesting world setting. I mean, stop trying to... I hate that Hollywood keeps trying to create stuff. You know, and I know I love original stuff, but they try to create stuff when there's some great stuff to adapt out there. You know? I don't want to see him remake another movie when you can adapt something else. Granted, I love original stuff, but man, it's hard to set up something, like create something original and have this big of a world. But when the world's already kind of set up for you, you've got source material. You know, look at the success of things like Game of Thrones, right? This could be a Game of Thrones type thing. Now, I don't know if I'd want to see it go total R. I think it would be a PG-13 movie or set of movies, but I would like to see them do a world building. I would love to see this. I mean, I know since they're probably not going to make this as a movie, they're going to make their own thing, and Lord knows if it'll be any good. I mean, this can make a great TV show. I mean, one thing I would love to see them do with this, I mean, if they're not going to go live action, I wouldn't mind seeing like an anime style series, similar to kind of like Netflix's Castlevania. I mean, I know they've only had a few episodes of that, but the way they did that, I could see them doing Dungeons and Dragons. I'd love to see them do Dragonlance that way as well. So, if they're not going to make a movie of Drizzt Do'Urden, make a series on it. I would love to see a Netflix series of Drizzt Do'Urden. But if I could have a D&D movie, Drizzt Do'Urden it would be, followed by Dragonlance. I'd go Dragonlance next. But Drizzt Do'Urden is a more of a singular hero with great supporting characters, whereas if you did something like Dragonlance, you'd have a lot of characters to set up. That series would probably lend itself better to, say, a TV show. That's going to be all for the big stories. Now, on to quick hits. Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn revealed that Baby Groot is not a new version of the old Groot, but in fact the original Groot's son. To this, I reply, I am Groot, which translates to, by this information being released by Mr. Gunn, I can now see where the Guardians franchise is now going, with Peter Quill having just met his father, discovering that he was a douche who killed Peter's mom, and realizing that Yondu was more of a dad to him. I can see that Peter will have to play a father figure to New Groot, which he kind of already has comedically. In the next movie, Peter and New Groot will have a lot of new learning experiences together as quote-unquote father and son. Like I said, I am Groot. In other Guardians news, Mark Hamill has expressed interest in joining the Guardians movie franchise. While Marvel would probably find him a more prominent live-action role, my vote would be for Hamill to voice Cosmo the Space Dog. While we have seen Cosmo a couple of times in the two Guardians movies, he has never spoke. Hamill is such a great voice actor, I'd hate to see those talents not utilized. Heck, he could still even play Cosmo and a live-action role. Make it happen, Marvel. Make it happen. Kevin Smith almost died of a massive heart attack last Sunday night. Many people over social media sent the filmmaker their well wishes, in the case of Chris Pratt, prayers. Pratt, who for some reason has been criticized in the past for his religious views, was attacked again for offering up prayers for Smith. All I have to say is this. Why do you care how someone sends well wishes to someone else? Smith said this about Pratt's tweet. Number 1, thanks to Chris Pratt. How sweet was that? Number 2, please don't fight over stuff like that. It's a waste of time. Whether you're religious or not, someone saying, I'll pray for you, it's good intentions. Look, while I joke about this being a sign that this is God warning Smith that Moose Jaws better be good, in all seriousness, I'd like to wish Smith a speedy and healthy recovery. I love that guy's work, or at least most of it. A controversial street artist named Sabo has taken inspiration from the movie 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, by hijacking 3 Los Angeles billboards. He covered the 3 billboards with similar ones from the movie, sporting the red backgrounds with bold black text. The billboards read, and the Oscar for biggest pedophile goes to, we all knew and still know arrests, and name names on stage or shut the hell up. Sabo had this to say about his message. If these people are truly serious about what they're doing in the Me Too and Time's Up movements, then they should have no problem being vocal on the Oscar stage. Instead of putting down Trump during the show, how about you hold your own industry's feet to the fire? Well, I hope his billboards don't end up causing the same violence and destruction that the ones in 3 Billboards did. I have to somewhat agree with the guy. If you're going to clean up the industry, then what bigger stage is there than the Oscars to do it on? Good luck playing off anybody that actually takes his advice. Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan has been asked a lot lately whatever happened to the character of Jesse Pinkman, played by Aaron Paul. He's also been asked if Pinkman would ever show up on Better Call Saul. His response to it was this: "You never know if that character may get revisited in the future. Anything's possible." My opinion would be this: if his role was limited to a couple of episodes as to not mess with the continuity of Breaking Bad too much, I'm all for it. Because let's face it, Pinkman is the type of guy that doesn't need a criminal lawyer, he needs a criminal lawyer. Star Wars The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson has given praise to Solo: A Star Wars Story, which I'm sure gives all sorts of confidence to those Star Wars fans who hated The Last Jedi. Frozen 2 co-director Jennifer Lee says that she's heard the pleas from fans wanting Princess Elsa to have a female love interest. To me, it doesn't matter either way. If Disney can give me an interesting character, either way, I'm all for it. For those that really want it to happen and are signing petitions, ranting on social media, etc., and to those that swear up and down that Disney will be dead to them if they dare do something like this, or are saying, you'll ruin my Disney if you do this, just let it go. Let it go. Long story short, Joss Whedon has given up on making a Batgirl movie. He said about dropping the project, really didn't have a story. I have a feeling Warner Brothers are going to take the opportunity to replace him with a female director. If I had my pick, I'd go with Lexi Alexander, the director of Green Street Hooligans and Punisher Warzone. Now, before you scoff at Punisher Warzone, just hear me out. I think that between the action and dark atmosphere that would surround a Gotham City story, she would be a very effective director. Punisher Warzone, if they did that without the neon, that'd make a very effective Gotham City, if you ask me. According to Jackie Chan some months ago, and most recently Chris Tucker, Rush Hour 4 is finally happening. Hey, as long as Brett Ratner is nowhere near the project and Roman Polanski isn't a character again, look it up, I'm all for it. Quentin Tarantino has tapped Brad Pitt for his newly named movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, based around the time of the Manson murders. Pitt will be playing the longtime stunt double for Leonardo DiCaprio's actor character, because they look alike, I guess. All kidding aside, I can't wait for this one. Tarantino has been talking to Tom Cruise for a role as well. I've mentioned this before, but I have a feeling that he wants Cruise to play Charles Manson. In DC news, the suit for Shazam got leaked in a set pic, and I know you won't believe me when I say this, but the costume actually looks exactly like it's supposed to. I know, right? Also, apparently Emma Stone passed on the role of Cheetah for Wonder Woman 2, which is supposed to take place in the 1980s. Now, Kristen Wiig is supposedly in talks for the role. If I had it my way, I would have went with Charlize Theron for the role, but then again, there's not many people I'd put above her for just about any role anyway. And lastly, in strange news, and this is a real thing, there is now a Shape of Water creature sex toy. When asked about it, Doug Jones, the actor behind the brilliant role, had this to say about it. With a light chuckle, I can tell you it's not exactly what I'd hoped for. I've actually had several real action figures made of my creature roles in the past, all of them done in good taste, which, by the way, I have a few of them on my shelf. After pouring my heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into this romantic, beautiful, magical role, the last thing I want to see be remembered for is a silicone appendage that comes in 2 sizes. That's going to be all for quick hits. Before I end the show, I want to draw your attention to a few different things. First, the Geek Be Cubed YouTube channel, where my buddy and I, Heisner, do the GB3 bi-weekly podcast. We kind of had a hiccup there. Some personal issues came up, but we're back now. We've done another program where we talked about Billy Mitchell. We talked about Marvel rebooting their comics again, and we talked about movies based on games and games based on movies. Also, I want to draw your attention to my partner in crime, Heisender's channel, where he does gaming live streams and Let's Plays, among other things, and also does a YouTube podcast called Heisender Speaks. Soon on the GB3 channel, along with the GB3 podcast, we're going to be working on some more projects together in the near future. I think we're going to do some Let's Plays together. We're going to do some movie reviews together. We're just throwing some things up against the wall and seeing what sticks. Lastly, the Geek Be Cubed podcast and Heisender Speaks have joined me on the DNA Digital Network. Now you'll be able to get all 3 of these podcasts on your favorite devices using iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or more. Now you'll still be able to listen to all of them on YouTube on their respective channels, but if you want to get them easier in an audio form, go to DNA Digital Network or GB3 World, where you can find them there. For information on these shows, the DNA Digital Network, and more, make sure to check out dnadigitalnetwork.com. And as always, at the end, I want to thank you guys that have supported me. Where I'm at on the YouTube, their new rules or whatever, I'm about 500 hours away from being reevaluated. It's been about 10 days. It's not too shabby. I'm playing catch up, but I eventually hope to get there. Watching my programs and stuff definitely helps, but whenever you guys watch, I appreciate every second that you guys watch this channel and listen to this show. I'm trying to get you guys some new stuff. I'm still working out what I want to do for other programs. I'm not sure if I'm going to go right back to the Punisher retrospective and to Netflix and Chance and to critical reviews just yet. I think I might give them a rest for a while and try some different things. I've got a few different ideas I want to try, but I got to develop them first. I'm doing Gino's Bad at Games. It's just kind of a fun change for me just to play games. If you watch those, I always tell people, don't expect Markiplier. I'm just having fun playing games. I'm giving commentary when I can, but playing a game like I'm playing Max Payne 3 first because I've ripped on that movie so many times. I figured I just want to show everyone, what a good Max Payne story could be. But it's kind of hard to do commentary on that because I don't want to interrupt the story. So I'm trying. It's a learning experience for me, and those of you that watched and have liked it and have commented on it, I totally appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. Just try to do something different. But that's about all I got for this week. Again, just thank you so much for your support. Every bit of support, every comment, even the ones that, are bad or sometimes trolly. I appreciate them all because I learn from everything. But especially those of you that are cool and are supportive. I love each and every one of you. I love that you're supportive. I love that you give my channel a chance, and it means everything to me. That's all I got for this week for Get on the Mic. As always, thank you so much for listening. This is The Real Gino Reynolds. See you later. Peace.